Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is How to Rap on iOS with Jade, and today we have the voice of 1,000 maniacs,
Adam Glynn. So buckle up and let's get down and dirty with some metal. Greetings. Welcome to the show, everybody. Hi, I'm Jade. What's going on? I hope you're all well. I'll just say g'day to everybody in the chat before we get into it today. Cold Acre, thank you for adminning the room as usual. Tom Rochelle, g'day. Scott, Russ, how are you folks? Today we have the pleasure, the company of the man of 1,000 voices of maniacs. I present to you the incredibly talented and gifted, multi-skilled creator, Adam Glynn. Adam, welcome to the show, my friend.
Morning, Jade. How are you? Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. I hope you're going well. How are you?
Yeah, very well, very well. We're in stage 4 lockdown at the moment in Victoria, but yeah, we're getting by, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, we're not dead, so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So far.
Not much has really changed for me, so it's still going to work.
Yeah. How's the mask with the beard? Let's get the most important question out of the way.
Horrible. I've actually I'll get 2 or 3 and I'll staple them together and create like this. It's like a beard diaper on my face. It's just the sight to behold. Yeah.
A giant face nappy. I love it.
Yeah.
We're already getting into the dirty stuff. Yeah. All right, well, today we're going to be talking about your creative endeavors throughout your career, and it's a very vast and unique career. So I'll start off with the first question that I ask everyone every single week, and I just want to thank everybody for being here on a Wednesday. We're mixing things up, doing the interview midweek today, so I hope you're all down with that. If you're not, what can I do? 2 words for you. Go shit. So, Adam, what does music mean to you?
Music mean to me? Ooh.
Yeah.
God. I don't know. It's meant different things to me over the years. I think for me now, it's more like a backtrack soundtrack to my life now. I don't give it the attention it deserves now that I'm older as an adult. I think with things like Spotify and stuff too, we're kind of sport for choice. But
yeah.
I don't know. I think as a child, I used to always, you'd sort of buy a CD or an album, you'd sort of come home and really give it the time it required, and I'd sort of sit down and listen to a track. So if it was like an album, 10 tracks, you'd sort of sit there with the inlay open and you'd read through the lyrics and stuff. Whereas I think it's been years now. There's certain albums that I love, and I couldn't tell you the name of a song on them. It's just so I don't know if that answers your question, but it's music's become very background sort of stuff to me. So I guess it's a great way of expression, just another form of various expressions that people have. So I mean, I don't know. It's also it's a bit of a cash cow. So I mean, you can get into a whole big debate about tangent about like MTV and all that sort of stuff. But I mean, at the end of the day, now after doing my own solo stuff, I've developed a lot more respect for the craft of just writing, and I'm not really in the mindset of putting anyone down or bagging anything out anymore, because at the end of the day, it is an expression of someone's self. So whether that's a good expression or a bad expression or a money-grabbing expression, it's still what someone else has done. And at the end of the day, you can bag someone's music, but then it's like, okay, well, where's your album, sort of thing? What have you done? What can you do better? So I think that's kind of where I'm at now with music. So yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, I love it. And just talking about like bagging like people's music kind of thing, it can be a trap that we fall into, especially I find, and we've talked about this on other shows with a lot of producers and stuff who are kind of still living in the past a bit and don't see like mobile devices being recording devices, creative devices for people. So they kind of poo-poo you and go like, what can you do with like a device? I'm a massive recording engineer, and here are the things that I've done. And when you look at a lot of those people, they don't have a list of good stuff that they've done. They've just been in the industry for like 40 years.
Sounds like a bit of insecurity and threatened, because I mean, yeah, the game has changed. I mean, anyone can do anything now, like thanks to companies like Apple and how easy and accessible apps are now. You can do almost anything. I mean, that's how I sort of got stuck into my art stuff. I mean, I can't draw for shit, but fucking become a pretty reasonably successful digital designer. I've done all my music and stuff through GarageBand and computers and stuff. So yeah, it just is what it is. So I mean, I guess I can get it. I understand where certain people, like older school people, are coming from, because I guess maybe they sort of feel a bit threatened because music has changed. You don't need, if you want to be an artist or whatever, depending on how successful that is, that's another thing. But you can create something in your home and then you just get like a DistroKid account and bang, you're all over where it needs to be. It's just whether the music's awesome and resonates with people and people pick up. I mean, didn't Lord get successful from that track basically uploaded on Bandcamp. That's what I heard. So
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess, even though we've moved to a digital world too, with releasing stuff over like record labels and putting out CDs, it's still the same window of time that you get to put out something. It's almost like those first 3 days are really important to, you're in the algorithm quickly, hopefully people are going to download it, and then you're just lost in the shuffle, which used to happen the same thing in a record store, just in the cardboard cutout that was at the front of Brash's or whatever, with your CD there that was there for maybe a week, Now, were you guilty? Were you one of those people who, when your first album was available in a store, went to the cardboard cutout and bought a few of them?
I don't know. I think when you sort of, I remember Brash's. That's the start. My boss, he lives up in like Wonthaggi, one of those butt-fuck towns up there, and they still got like a Sanity up there or something.
Oh my god!
He bought me a pen. Like they're so desperate to sell stuff, they stock pens now. So really good pen. Anyway, yeah, I don't know about cardboard cutouts, but I think for me, like you'd sort of, when I had my first job, you'd sort of foolishly budget for CDs, and I'd go to JB Hi-Fi every payday, and I think. I don't know. I know they say not to judge a book by its cover or a CD by its cover, but sometimes I would just grab stuff because it looked cool. And I mean, I remember sometimes you go with the intention of buying another artist and you'd find something else, and then you'd think, oh, this is so much better. I mean, I grabbed the first Slipknot album, which judge if you will, but I grabbed that album because those guys all look like the guys from Mr. Bungle. Like I loved all the boiler suits and the masks and stuff. I thought, oh, well, and it was $20. So back then, this is when CDs started to drop down in price.
Yep.
I remember like cassettes, like they used to be $20, and then all of a sudden I think when Vulgar Display of Power came out, I got that for $10.
Yeah,
it's like $10 for an album on cassette. That's unheard of now. It's like it's just sign of the times. Showing my age here now. But
for those of you who don't know, that's a cassette, and how you use that is you put it under your armpit and just under there and just wish that it plays. God, I hope somebody's not watching now who's like putting that under their armpit. That would be pretty fucked up.
It's funny that meme with like the pencil and the cassette, and they're trying to, millennials are trying to, what's the correlation between the two? And it's like, what? What, you write the name of the title on the cassette? I don't know.
So I'll ask next. So growing up, what was the first kind of music around, that you earliest remember that was in a household or something that influenced you, or as a kid kind of thing? Some of the bands that were just played in the background or stuff like that.
Well, my mum left my dad when I was very, very young, and my mum's a twin, so she had a very close bond with her sister, and so naturally the first thing she did was move home with her after my parents got divorced. And growing up, they love things like Eurythmics and stuff. I remember Kiss being played in the background. The first album I ever got, though, which my mum sort of insisted on me having, was Michael Jackson's Thriller.
Oh, yeah.
But but I think the first thing I actually grabbed that I really liked for myself was, I remember when we got our first record player, but my aunt had a whole bunch of albums anyway, and I was going through the collection. I think I was only like 3 years old, but I still remember it so vividly. And I found the Star Wars soundtrack. And you remember the one that was black with the Star Wars font on the back of that Darth Vader with all the stars? You probably own it, or you'd probably know of it. And I just remember just that resonating with me, just going, oh, what is this? And my aunt's like, oh, that's Star Wars. And then she put the music on, and the opening title, for me, it's one of the greatest things ever written, up there with the Imperial theme, obviously. But she's opened it all up. And, when you're a kid, you just look up and everyone's so tall and stuff. And it's like, oh, he seems to really like that. And then I remember the next day, being taken, I think it was Woolies or something like, but the proper Woolies before Safeway took it over. Yeah. And getting my first Darth Vader figure. So yeah, Star Wars for me, that theme was what really drew me to that. But then Michael Jackson's Thriller. But I didn't actually buy any band albums until probably I was around 12-ish or 13. I used to mostly get soundtracks. So I was more into movies as a kid. So I had like the Mad Max 3 soundtrack, Indiana Jones. I love John Williams and stuff. So, and then embarrassingly enough, I think the first album I actually bought for myself was Bros. Do you remember those guys?
Oh, fuck yeah, man.
I don't know. I always wanted that drummer's Batman jacket. It was just so fucking cool.
You were just in it for the jacket.
Yeah. But then In Excess Kick was what really sort of kicked me off, I think, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Started making good musical decisions, I think, if you want to call it that.
No, I don't think you can ever look back at that and say, because the 80s, there was a lot of, there's a lot of cheese at the time, but a lot of that cheese has influenced a lot of really fantastic stuff, especially like, the kind of, we're both really big Mr. Bungle kind of fans in that avant-garde style. And I think if it wasn't for that varied mix of music that came through the 80s of incredibly tacky, electronic, just camp, all that stuff, we wouldn't have such a broad, eclectic range of music that we kind of used to have before this last decade.
I think it depends on how you're brought up as well, because if you're, I was raised by women, so I never had a bloke, to kick the footy with or show me any heavy sort of stuff or rock or whatever men sort of would listen to growing up, I guess. So my influences came from a very feminine kind of background. So yeah, as I was saying, your Rhythmics, Fleetwood Mac, all that sort of stuff. And yeah, like my dad was very into sort of Black Sabbath and Zeppelin and all that sort of stuff and AC/DC, but I didn't know that till I got to know my dad more in my sort of teenage years and whatnot. But but obviously, I think it comes from what sort of background you have. So I mean, I never listened to like Frank Zappa or anything like that. I got into it later in my years. But if I'd been raised by my father, I probably would have discovered more of this stuff sooner on. So I think as a kid, you're kind of told, like, because my parents or my mum would sort of turn her nose up at things like earrings and tattoos and stuff, even though my dad had tattoos, I guess. But you sort of these are you naturally come into by yourself. So yeah, I don't know. Like I think when I first heard Mr. Bungle, for example, like I didn't actually like it, but I didn't understand it. So sort of it was one of those albums. It was probably the first album I heard that actually commanded some kind of attention from the listener. So I'm like, I don't understand this. Like there's just so much going on, and I just kept listening to it until it kind of made sense to me. Yeah. Until it was sort of like, okay, well, this just sounds like a normal song to me now. And then I started looking for heavier and crazier taste, but that's a bit of a side tangent. But yeah.
Mr. Bungle definitely is something you need to study for, like an exam.
Yeah, yeah.
It sure is. And like when you cram for it at the end of it, you're so much better for it. Like I think if you were, and I think, over time, many people have fallen into the trap of not studying music anymore. So, you can kind of, not trying to poo-poo anybody who doesn't like Mr. Bungle, because we all have our different tastes. But you can almost tell certain people who are going to hate Mr. Bungle when you play before you play them, because they just like, oh, but it doesn't have a beat, man. Like it's confusing me, exactly what you said. So I just wanted to touch on something. So you said, how your dad, as you found out later on, listened to that heavier music. Did that help you when you reconnected with him? Did music play a part in helping your reconnection with him at all?
I think it did, because I think my dad, to some extent, was pretty open-minded with music. So when we sort of touched base again, I was listening to sort of, Faith No More and Jesus Jones and bunch of stuff. I was only just starting to really get into heavier tastes. But I remember playing The Real Thing to him, and then he sort of heard War Pigs. He's like, oh, that's actually a Black Sabbath cover. And I didn't know that. Like I was right. And then he showed me Sabbath, and then back then it's sort of like, oh, the production of that shit, but I didn't appreciate it for what it was back then. But what was the question again? So it's 8 o'clock in the morning, man.
Yes, it's all good. So so you've got your musical tastes happening, swirling around in your head. What was it? Was there a pivotal moment or something that made you wanted to actually start singing and being a part of actually making music? Was there some kind of light bulb moment, or was it just a natural progression?
There was 4 moments actually. So one was when I was in primary school and I had this crush on this girl, and I remember we were at a Catholic school and we were singing hymns and stuff, and I remember turning next to her and saying, oh, I hate singing, I sing like a girl. And she's like, no, you've actually got a good voice. I'm like, oh, what? And then I think in church as well, I was turning the pages for our teacher who was playing piano and flute at the same time. This one time at band camp, and she wrote in my report, Adam's actually got a good voice. And then I think there was one time after school when I was living with an aunt, and I brought home this In Excess documentary, In Search of Excellence, and I was just singing along to that, and my aunt's like, oh, you sound like Michael Hutchence when you sing. And then so that kind of got me inspired to sing. So I would just annoy my family by having headphones on and just belting out in my bedroom and stuff. And then I think the first gig I ever went and saw live was Nirvana, and I'd never heard music like that before. I'd never seen a live band at all. And
that was an
hearing
awesome
music
gig too. That was a sick gig, man.
amazing. And I walked out there going, I want to be in a band.
Yeah.
And then just did what I could to make that happen. It was a slow process because I was in Cranbourne and didn't really know people. So I later went on to play with like people like Aaron Butler and Tim Middeke and Frankenbok. But Aaron was at the same high school I went to, and back then I was a very nervous young man, and I should have gone up and said, "Oh look, I think I might be able to sing. Like, can I join your band or something?" But he came across as a bit of a cunt anyway because he was all spiky hair and he just looked like a real smart ass. I just thought he would have spat on me or laughed at me for something. So it's just quite intimidating. But he was a really lovely guy when I first eventually did meet him. So yeah, and then we sort of got into that many years later. But yeah.
See, I can't even imagine you like being that timid person. So just to fill people in, like we've known each other for over 20 years, definitely. Like we've lived together, we've played in bands together. So we've got history, and you mentioned Tim and Aaron, and so it's quite incestuous, our little scene that we came from in Cranny, mate, in Cranbourne, Victoria, Australia, and
Cottaroo, mate,
Cottaroo chicken, and so
I was going to get the references, but cycles the time.
I was going to also say too, you mentioned that it was a girl who kind of convinced you that you had a good voice. So back then you weren't a cold fish.
Yeah, always a cold fish, mate.
Always a cold fish. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But so you mentioned Aaron and Tim, and as I said, we all kind of knew each other. So then this led you to your first band, and this is when I met you. And your band was called Bacterium. Tell us a little bit about Bacterium, because definitely a band that was way ahead of their time, and for such a young band, really coming from such a small little town like Cranbourne, you were pretty much propelled into the spotlight, being on it's called The Factory, was it? Is that what it's called on ABC? No, what's the ABC show? Recovery. Fuck, man. So you were thrown into there. Then you played at Luna Park. Was it you're in Bacterium? You played there?
No. I think that was Prozac.
That was Prozac.
I think that was the day though when I first sort of maybe second or third time met you.
Yeah, all right. So that's where I'm getting.
I remember you mentioning things like Damage and stuff, and then we got spit up. So it's really cool.
Give me a break, man. It was a long time ago. So
well, if anyone knows of 12-Foot Ninja, like they've done really well. So 12-Foot Ninja, the drummer, he was in that band with me. So it kind of goes back a little bit. There was a band we sort of had in Cranbourne, and I got kicked out of it because my voice wasn't heavy enough and stuff. And so I remember getting really bitter and upset about it. It's like, I'm a band, you can't see the forest for the trees back when you're 15 years old, and just being really gutted about it. So I locked myself in my room for like a year, and I started practicing to like heavier bands like Napalm Death, Pantera, all that sort of stuff. So I was starting to get into heavier music, and I'd use the voice I used like when I was playing with my He-Man toys and Darth Vader as a kid. So that kind of growl that I use, that's the voice I used to have for Skeletor and stuff, because
He-Man. He-Man.
I was so disappointed in the cartoon. Still love that, disappointed in what they did, their portrayal of Skeletor. And then what ended up happening, that band that kicked me out, they got Russ and a bunch of other dudes and stuff, and then the singer, well, we're friends now, but back then he was a bit of a douche, and then I think they ended up kicking him out, and so it was me and Jake, and we got Russ, and we ended up getting Brett. We had another bass player, Wayne Tonkin, and we ended up kicking him out, unfortunately. And so we ended up sort of doing that. We started out as Captain Krill, and then we changed the name to Bacterium.
Yeah.
Brent Maloney was in the band for a while as well, so you remember Brent, he played with us in Filth.
Yes, and in Dirt as well.
Yeah, and then and Bacterium did pretty cool for a while. We did a bunch of demos and stuff, and we finally put the stuff up on Spotify, but yeah, just I don't know. We just never did a recording that did us justice. It's just one of those things. We were kids. We didn't really know what we were doing. We got pretty lucky in a lot of ways. And then Aaron I'd known for years. So when he came back from Florida, I think Bacterium was kind of on hiatus, not really doing anything. And I just really respected his work ethic, and Tim as well. So I sort of put it to them like we should do a band together. And so the three of us did with our drum machine for a while. And then we got Scott on board playing guitar, and then we were doing our first album finally. It took us 3 years for stuff to really start to happen. And then halfway through the album, we found Mick Morley, who ended up joining, and then Frankenbok started doing that. And then Bacterium was still happening on the side, but we got a new guitarist, and nice guy, but just wasn't really feeling it. And then in the end, I think I introduced Russ to Stevik McKay, and then they went off and did their thing. I went off and did Frankenbok, and yeah, the rest is sort of big fish in the small pond musical history. Yeah.
Well, while you're talking there, I just put up some images of Bacterium on Apple Music, and there are links to all the bands that we mentioned today in the show of all Adam's music. And trust me, if you look in the description, it took me a long time to put together all those links because your list of bands and accomplishments are quite huge. And since you've mentioned Frankenbok, let me just turn down this backing music of your latest solo EP, and we're just going to scoot over. And I will just play a bit of this. So you joined Frankenbok, and as you said, you started off with a demo with a drum machine, and slowly the band came together. Before you know it, you've released an album, and you did a cover of a track called Don't Call Me Baby. And this thing actually propelled you guys. I know we all have, look, I think every artist has those things that you don't expect to take off. And then you get sick to fuck of playing them. I think it's so common for every artist. The thing you don't expect becomes a thing, and then you end up playing it all the time. And this is a fine example of this. So I'm just going to play a bit of this because this was big shit, man, at the time. I mean, this took off majorly for you guys. So this is Frankenbok with Adam on vocals and a cover of the hit dance song Don't Call Me Baby. I just make sure I've got no backing music there. All good. Turn up the sound. God, talking through what I'm doing here. Let's just go full screen and whack it on. Here we go. Channel V there.
This is going to go down like a fucking bag of shit, but it's funny, all these people knew the words, and these old dudes in metal, their battle jackets shaking their booty and dancing to it. It's hilarious. And I thought that would be the end of it. I thought we'd do a bunch of covers and stuff, and then we ended up recording it for the EP, which was like, okay, cool, whatever. And but then John Sadley at Roadrunner was like, oh, we should make this, focus on this and make this the single, and it could be the difference between selling 2,000 units and 10,000 units, which again, we only sell 2,000 units, but yeah, I'm not disrespecting Frankenbok or the guys for choosing this song or whatever. It was funny at the time, but I just didn't want that to be my legacy of Frankenbok sort of thing. So when I left, it was all like, oh, now they're, and they got Adam Big Metal, or whatever his name was, like, oh, well, now they're a serious metal band and stuff, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, well, that's fine. But yeah, I don't know, it just sort of turned us into a bit more of a joke band sort of thing. So, yeah, I don't know. It just, yeah.
Yeah, I can understand fully how that, because like I remember like the odd thing was at the time, like we weren't really hanging out as much then, but I was following Frankenbok, and I just remember every time I saw it, kind of going, "Fuck, man." It's just, it is always the way, the rest of the album is so fucking brutal. And of course it's, thinking back, you know me when I was in Despised and we had that demo with that stupid song Septic Midas, which we wrote in like 2 minutes, and at our gigs everyone's like, Septic Midas. I was like, fuck off, man. I'd wipe my ass with that song.
Yeah.
But it just became that thing that people fucking wanted so much, you just wanted to punch everybody in the head for it.
Yeah, well, I guess there's people that listen to music because of the art of it and the intention that goes behind it, and there's just people that just want to that are obtuse and just want to tap their feet to it. It's got a good beat, a good hook, a good melody, it's catchy.
Which is a good thing too,
Yeah, look, absolutely. I don't know, like I think you can bag simplicity in music, but I think those are now in hindsight it's sort of like, okay, well, you don't want to come across as this jaded cunt that fucking like, oh yeah, 'cause I'm not a good songwriter, so yeah, so I write really avant-garde shit that no one can get into, but you just don't understand it, mate. You don't get me, sort of thing. I think, you know, there's definitely an art to songwriting, to the eloquence of it. If you can tell a story and if it resonates with people, that's really cool too. That's not exactly for me though. Like, I'm more about just doing what I want to do, and for me, if people like what you do, then that's icing on the cake. I never thought Frankenbok was going to do what it did. I thought of, you know, no disrespect to those guys, but I wasn't really into it. And I left halfway through that first album that we were doing because I wasn't happy. Like, I really missed Bacterium and stuff, and that's where my heart really laid. And those guys kind of came after me as, you know, friends, because they really cared and was worried about me and stuff. And then I thought, okay, well, I'll give it a shot, because Aaron, you know, we all had this meeting and stuff, and Aaron just said, you know, come on, is it the music? You don't like the music and stuff? And I was just like, oh, I don't know. I didn't want to be rude or anything, but he's like, you know, we've got a good shot here. Let's do this, and if we fail, let's fail together and stuff. I thought, okay, well, let's just go. I mean, at the end of the day, Frankenbok, when I was in it, was 5 very different dudes that had a really good work ethic, and we all had different interpretations and approach to what we thought good metal was, but it kind of worked, because in the end, it was a very sort of mixed bag. Yeah. And it had very different types of people following the band and digging it. So we did do songs that were like kind of death metal, grindcore, and there was elements of new metal, and there was elements of pop and punk, and it was cool. Like, I listened to that album, and it's just such a weird album to me. Not in the sense that it's weird, but just like it just is what it is. It was something quite kind of unique, and no one was doing that at the time, and we definitely had something different. And we kind of got dragged into the spotlight because of bands like the Wolves and stuff like that. Like, they were what really pumped love and life back into the metal scene back in those days. I mean, prior to that, like, for me, it was sort of like Damage, Bloodduster, Christbait. They were the bands, your band Despise, that were really the sort of bands I dug. There's a band called Kurgan as well at the time. There's a whole bunch of really cool Melbourne bands, but metal's always been the underdog, obviously, for the scene, especially in Australia, and it kind of comes in and comes out. But yeah, now you got bands like Parkway Drive, so the hardcore really sort of took over as well, and, you know, people interpret that for heavy music, but there's elements that borrow from it, but it's a different beast altogether. So I guess it just depends. I guess it depends what people are exposed to and what they know, because there's so many good bands that just don't get that leg up that would have deserved the success that maybe Frankenbok had at the time or whatever. But I mean, I still to this day show people your album Despise, because I thought it was amazing, and it's just such a shame it came out so late, because I think back in the day when it would have come out, it would have done really, really well. But anyway.
Yeah, look, that's what happens when you get a girl in the band and everyone tries to fuck her. Unfortunately, it is what it is, man, you know, and I'm not blaming her for that. I'm blaming the people who did.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not mentioning their names or anything like that. So I just want to touch on, you know, because with Frankenbok, you know, you were thrown into, you know, a bit of the spotlight there. And I think we share a very similar disdain for things, and we have a very easy way with our mouths, or we have in the past. So, and we both have had a history of maybe saying some stuff that people have taken the wrong way, maybe being a bit too full on at times for some people. How did you deal with that kind of stuff, like with criticism or any feedback on you for some of the things you may have said live? Because, you know, we've both been guilty of it, I think.
Yeah. I think at the time, when I remember sort of growing up in Cranbourne and stuff in those later teenage years, hanging out with you and stuff, and I did learn a lot from you.
Oh.
Yeah. It's not your fault.
That's me.
I don't know. I think, you know, you'd see bands like that Patton would front, or Devon Townsend and stuff, and I really loved their approach to being a frontman, like not taking themselves too seriously, especially like Devon Townsend. He was a funny bastard and a bit of a smart ass, and took the piss out of himself, which is what I always kind of tried to do. Like, at the same time, between the dead air of songs, it's unfortunately the frontman has to talk. Yeah. And the last thing I wanted to do, but I don't know, some people shouldn't drink. I probably shouldn't get a microphone in my hand because yeah, I don't know, but I just tried to entertain people, and have jokes with people, and people would come up after shows and say, fucking, cool, and sort of things like, dude, I was just joking. It's like, what's the difference between a stand-up comedian getting up and saying all this anti-Semitic stuff or racist stuff that they don't even believe in, but they're just saying it. It's the shock value of it, and that's, seeing bands like Blood Duster and being in Filth with You for a while, that's where I got all that sort of from. And I don't know, it's just about making people laugh and just not taking yourself too seriously. But yeah, I mean, back in hindsight, I can understand why people got upset. I mean, I had some run-ins with people. Like, there's a drummer from this band called Carpathian. He came up to me after a gig one day and got right in my face about some stuff, and I'm just like, whoa, dude, and then things got a bit heated, and it's more because I had a bit to drink and stuff, and this guy's fucking towering over me, and then I could have diffused the situation. It was diffused. He walked away, but back then I like to have the last word, and the guy punched me in the face, and he was a bartender at fucking whatever shithole we played at that night, and and it's just like, okay, that's when it kind of made me realize, okay, well, if people are going to start coming up to me and threatening me and wanting to fight me and stuff, maybe it's time to curve it a little bit. But at the same time, he had every right to be annoyed or whatever. But the thing was, I don't actually recall bagging out their band. We had a really great gig with them at Next, and but yeah, I don't know. Some people, I mean, I'll play with mates' bands. We'd have a joke about them and stuff, and I always encouraged it to do it to me as well. But no one ever did. It's just, and then people just take themselves way too fucking seriously. So it's just like, lighten up. I mean, we're playing. Depending, like, gigs vary. Like, sometimes you'd have really great gigs, and like, I've done gigs where we played to like 3 people in Tasmania, and and 2 of them were girlfriends, like, it's so one fucking person came to watch it. It's like, it's just, it's embarrassing, but it's humbling as well. But at the end of the day, it's just like, this is why I do music the way I do it now. Like, I'm not interested in playing live anymore. I just want to make music. The exciting bit for me is writing and recording, putting it out and forgetting it. It's like a photograph or a sketch that you do. It's just there. It sounds like, yeah, I did my best at the time. That's what I thought I needed to do, and it's done and it's out there. And if people check it out, then so be it. But I couldn't give a fuck anymore. Like, it's like George Lucas says, I've done enough in my life now where I can spend the rest of my years failing, and that's what I do now. So now I do the art stuff. Occasionally I get inspired to do music, and so sometimes I get like an idea and I just put out. But it's more for people like you and a handful of close friends that still kind of, I guess, I won't flatter myself, but might enjoy what I do. And it's more for those sorts of people. If other people get into it, then fine. But so now the new band I'm in, Unicorn 69, which is still just a recording project. It's been another guy, Philip Giorgio. He's been hassling me for years to do something with him. I was just like, oh, I don't know. And then he came over one night and we had a few beers and a couple of fucking canes, and then we got talking, and he was, he's really cool. Like, we're on the same page as far as music and stuff, at least the approach to it. And the EP we put out was, we worked on one song together, and then 2 of the other songs were just outtakes from another band I tried out for last year, which didn't end up working out. And I just gave him the vocals, said, look, just to get things going, see if you can do anything with this. And so he wrote all that music around vocals I'd already recorded. He chopped it up and changed things around. But yeah, I was just really impressed with the way he kind of worked. I mean, at the end of the day now, people don't really pay for music anymore. So I'm kind of like, well, fuck you. Like, until you start giving me money, why should I put out quality music? I just like creating. So it's, yeah. So the EP came out. It was okay for what it was. I mean, but gone are the days where I'm shelling out, between people $30,000 to make a record.
Yeah.
That's a fucking house deposit.
Yeah, thank God those days are over, man.
Yeah, no, fuck all that. Fuck that noise. It's like everyone else makes money from the music except the actual people fucking making the music. So
yeah,
you start to sound like a jaded old cunt. But yeah, no, fuck that.
But technology changes, but the artist still gets fucked over in the end.
We don't need you anymore.
Get off my lawn. God, you mentioned there like playing in Tasmania to 3 people, and it just reminded me of, I don't know if you've ever seen the comedy spoof series by the guys from the Young Ones, from the comic strip, where they do this joke band called Bad News.
Yes,
and they play that gig at the end, and there's like 2 people and the dog, and what's his name? Den goes, you didn't let the dog in for free, did you? But that is like the classic old school live doing the grind scene, man. Like Richmond Club, all that kind of fucking shit. So from Frankenbok, you moved on to a new band called 5-Star Prison Cell, which we opened the show with today.
Yep.
How is that different from, being in Frankenbok and then, because, 5-Star Prison Cell had success as well and playing all over the place as well. But, in my opinion, a lot more technical and more focused and more mathematical as a band compared to something like Frankenbok. How was that for your growth as a musician?
Yeah, really good. I still, to this day, Frankenbok was a lot easier to write stuff too. So with 5-Star, there's lots of more odd time signatures and stuff. I don't know if I really did that band justice, but it was kind of like these guys were just writing some crazy music, and it was more like, well, you could just do what I wanted. I could do what I wanted, I should say. And when I joined that, when we sort of started that band, this was just when I started getting my hands onto my own recording stuff, and so started experimenting more with lots of multi-vocal layering and stuff, which is what I'm really into, especially from, say, the first Bungle album, because there's so much happening vocally on those albums and stuff. The guys were a little bit younger as well, but they were metalheads, but they were a different type of metalhead from the guys that, say, Frankenbok were, because they were a little bit younger, and they were, a lot of them were into more of the metal I was into and what I tried to bring to Frankenbok, but then they were into a whole bunch of different stuff as well. So, they got me into bands like Converge and Pig Destroyer and, I don't know, a bunch of other stuff that I can't think of at fucking 8:42 in the morning. But yeah, they were really great guys. And the thing was with that band was it was just meant to be a recording project. My grandmother sadly passed away and left me a bit of money. And so I'd always planned to sort of buy like a new recording setup. And I always just wanted to work with musicians and just do what I'm doing now in Unicorn 69, which is just recording stuff and putting it out. And that was the deal. So we sort of met up with these guys, and Cam, who's the bass player, he's a very talented guy, really awesome, intelligent guy. Yeah, we were just basically going to be this recording project. And then when we sort of were rehearsing, once we got our set together, we're sort of like, oh, the guys were really keen to play live. And I said, look, I really don't want to do it. And it's like, oh, come on, And it's like, okay, well, if we do it, you guys can chip in for the recording and stuff. Because I knew once we started playing live, that's when things would change, and that's when it would start burning a hole in things and whatnot. Because those guys were all in bands at the time anyway. So this was just meant to be like a recording project. Do it properly, put the album out and stuff, and then just leave it as is. But yeah, it's like anything in life. Sometimes things pop up, and became like a 6-7 year side tangent and stuff. But when that band ended, there was no hard feelings or anything. We made 3 great albums that I'm really proud of, and those guys have all gone on to do different things. Yeah, but it was very different to Frankenbok. It got some success, but it was not as easy for people to get their heads around and stuff. So, but yeah, I don't know. I think for me, it was just like there's a bit of a revenge band, because at the time when I did leave Frankenbok, there was a bit of bad blood, and I was actually content to not do music again. Like I had a partner at a time, we had a nice place together, and we were just kind of cool. And then I think it was sort of like, fucking Frankenbok's better now that Adam's left for a real metal band. I was like, well, I'll fucking show you cunts and do a better, crazier, heavier band and stuff. But yeah, that was just a really dumb, childish headspace to be in and whatnot. And I'm sort of sorry I dragged those guys into that stuff, because there was like a weird unhad feud between the two bands and stuff, and then really childish stuff. It got back to me. They were saying stuff, so then I started saying shit in between songs and stuff, and it's just fucking dumb. Like, I'm so regretful of all that. Aaron has recently made contact with me, so we're sort of talking again, and it's all water under the bridge. It's just dumb shit. Like, I know I'm actually quite embarrassed for the first fucking 40 years of my life. I look back now, it's like I'm actually only 40 years old, Jade, now. Like, I denounced that first 40 years of my life. So yeah, it's just dumb.
Well, we've had experience together with that kind of thing too, because back when we were living together, for those of you in the chat, and I will say hello to Pete Johns, who's joined us, and Langston Reese. G'day, welcome to the chat. So we were living in a house in Cranbourne, and you were in Bacterium. I was in like the end of Despise, we changed our name to Dirt. And one night I got stoned. I sat up with an acoustic guitar in front of an old cassette recorder and recorded a bunch of songs for this stupid comedy band called Filth. And you were a singer, so we put you on bass. I played guitar. Brent, who lived with us, was a guitarist, so we put him on drums. And we just started doing this stupid fucking band with songs about sticking sticks in dogs' bums covered in deep heat, having sex with beehives, ridiculous shit. And then we got our friend Mike involved. And then we did one gig, released a demo, and kind of became a cult status thing.
That was probably the most fun I'd ever had in a band.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, completely offensive stuff. Really cool. I always wanted to play bass in like a grindcore band, and it's just like, yeah, I'm actually using, because when I sort of got into music, I actually just wanted to be a bass player, and so I bought a bass guitar and I was learning and I was getting okay at it, but and then I got sidetracked and got back into singing and neglected it. So it was really cool because I remember we were all on the dole back then and we just jam at the house, and it was just so much fun. Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, we did that one gig and Blood Duster came up on stage with us, and instead of us playing a cover of Blood Duster, they took our instruments and they played their own cover while we did Star Jumps on stage. It was just ridiculous times. And then, later on, we that band split up, and it's still going now with Mike doing all that stuff. I won't go into that story. But then years later, we got back together, even though yours was a small part I'm bringing this up because you mentioned kind of the revenge thing. And then years later, I created a band called Filthy Maggoty Cunt as a kind of revenge for filth. And you reprised your role as the Cold Fish and joined us for a few gigs and sung with us. And we were like a drag grindcore act, and it was ridiculous. People would come to our gigs wearing dresses, seeing metalheads in dresses, and just talking about how you said you got punched at a gig. I'm so glad you joined the Punched in the Head Club, because we did an FMC gig in Adelaide, and I'll just tell you this story. On the way before the gig, I was working as a baker, and I made these penis bread rolls with testicles attached to them. Yeah. And we went all the way to Adelaide with this bag of bread rolls, and we got to the gig, and I threw them out to the crowd, saying to the band, watch this, man. We're going to look out to the crowd and see all these tough metalheads with a glass of beer in their hand, chewing on a dick. And fully, and I took the piss out of that, and some dude was like, hang on a minute. Are they saying I'm a faggot? And fully just jumped up on stage and punched me in the head, and it's all on video, and I'm so proud I got punched in the head by somebody just after they ate a penis bread roll.
I mean, I don't know, if you're not getting punched after a gig, are you really resonating with your audience? I mean, come on.
You haven't made it till your head's been on somebody's fist.
The whole thing about being punched as well, like that band, Carpathian or whatever, they were quite popular and doing very well. I mean, my band was pretty insignificant in comparison. So, I mean, at the end of the day, like and I'm sure you're in the same boat. You don't cop you got to take the good with the bad. So I copped my fair share of fucking abuse and being put down in reviews and stuff or whatever. It's, who gives a fuck? These people are insignificant to me. It's like people are entitled to their opinions and stuff. And if you're so secure in what you're doing, you don't really need to be going up and fucking punching people after gigs and that, because, you bagged my band out, cunt, or whatever. Just dumb shit. I mean, at the same time too, it's a lesson in respect and whatnot. So that's why I don't do that stuff anymore. It's just like, okay, people are just way too precious about their stuff. But I'm sure, people have bagged me out. I know they have, but it's not like I've turned up to their fucking house or their gig going, fucking, what'd you say about my solo EP that fucking 3 people checked out? Like, get over yourself. Jesus Christ.
So
you get angry.
So what I'm going to do now is, and I'll get you to mute your mic because I'm going to play a track from your new EP. So you've got 2 new recordings out, and we'll go into them in a second. But what we're going to do now is play a track from the new Unicorn 69er. And the track I'm playing is Shard, so it's the opening track. It's a 3-song EP. And so just bang yourself on mute. I'll turn down my sound, and we'll check out this track from Adam's new project called Unicorn 69er. Yeah. Yeah, there you go. That was Shard from the new Unicorn 69er, and the EP is called In Stereo Where Available. Is that so? You class it as an EP? Is that right?
Yeah, EP single.
There's 3
We're
tracks.
originally we're gonna do 4 or 5 tracks, but we just we've got an album's worth of stuff, but all the songs aren't completely finished, so we just felt like the 3 of them were probably the most ready, and just kind of had a bit of a correlation to them. We just wanted to get something out just to let people know we exist. Like, we might end up pulling that EP down. At the moment, we're just working on a new single, so yeah, just I think we're gonna the goal was first was like, oh, we'll put out EPs, and then it's like, no, we'll do an album. And then I think talking to Phil, we're just like, you know what, we're just going to treat it like South Park. So we'll just put out an episode every couple of weeks or a month or something, and just do it that way. Just get a bunch of songs out and just spend more time on one song and just see how people respond to it and stuff. So it's been pretty cool, modest, but yeah, cool so far. So yeah.
Yeah, it's heavy, man. It's heavy as fuck. So well done on that. Love it. Got it straight away as soon as it came out. And again, folks, if you want to check out the whole thing, link is in the description. So also want to talk about, so after 5 Star Prison Cell kind of disappeared and broke up, that's when you moved to a whole bunch of solo projects. So things like, so you've got Aries, Coitus Band, you've got a whole lot of things. And I've put a link to your Bandcamp page, and I've got up on the screen now just showing a whole bunch of your solo albums on Apple Music. So tell us a little bit about that, because, you know, there's a vast, in my opinion, a vast amount of influences, and, you know, you use vocal techniques. There's like tribal soundscape stuff. There's a whole mixture of crazy stuff in there, and you know, it's not for everybody's taste. Clearly, if you're into avant-garde music, it's going to be right up your ass. So what got you into doing this kind of these solo projects?
After I left Frankenbok, I was working on some stuff like yourself, because I know you did your Filthy Maggoty Cunt EP using a lot of the PlayStation game and software stuff. So I did the same thing, but I was really listening to a lot of Portishead and Massive Attack at the time. So I wanted to do like an electronic sort of thing. And I originally did vocals over it myself. I put out one track and it just got fucking laughed off the internet. All those Frankenbok fans, and I just totally bagged the shit out of it. And I was like, okay, so I took it off. And then when I joined 5 Star, one of the bonding exercise was I went to a party with them up and celebrated New Year's Eve with them. And the bass player, I had this lovely girlfriend, Rebecca Chapman, and we're doing some karaoke, and this girl is an amazing singer. And I sort of went up to her and said, you know, I've done a bunch of stuff, and I think your voice would be really good on it. Would you like to give it a go? And she did. And so she came around and we recorded the stuff at my house. And yeah, so I was just like, this is really cool. And it's just something I always wanted to do. Obviously the production's not the greatest, but fuck it, who cares? She's definitely an amazing singer, and I really loved what she brought to those tracks. So we put it out as an EP, which is a physical EP, but it's also a free download from Bandcamp or on Spotify and all that sort of stuff too. And then after the music was sort of done, I was sort of working on my own sort of stuff, and I always just wanted to do something like what Mike Patton and Björk did, where they did like a release basically just with their voices. So that's where the Aries idea came from, and so I just sort of did my interpretation of that. And then, but I also had a bunch of songs I was working on with samples and whatnot. So just my own sort of thing. So again, it's just stuff I was doing when I was bored on my computer, when just had nothing better to do. And then eventually I just finally got the confidence to put it out. And I know it's flawed. It's not perfect. It's just something I wanted to do. It's just like an expression of yourself. And it's not that I'm a narcissist or I think this is amazing and I'm going to do great things because of it. It's just, I just like to, what's the point of having a whole bunch of stuff? What's the point of doing stuff if you don't show anybody? I know so many talented musicians that would wipe the floor with both of us combined, and they just don't do nothing with it. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's just something to do, you know? Like it's the same with the art as well. It's just what happened with the Aries EP was I got a really good response from the cover. I did, and that's when I finally got the confidence to put the art stuff out there. So now music got really pushed to the side, and then I just started doing a lot of art. So doing like commission jobs for people, and I did a couple of albums for a few sort of indie acts and whatnot, and that's been really cool too. So, and I sort of, when I design stuff for people, I do it on a barter system or a pay what you feel kind of thing. So I know what it's like to be a musician, and you don't have a lot of money. I'd rather them put the money into their recording and stuff, and it's just a good way to kind of give back to a community that once gave back to me, and it's all just about supporting each other. So what's really cool about the Unicorn 69er EP is it was mixed for free. I hope Matt doesn't mind me saying that, but it was a barter system. So I'm going to do the artwork for his band's album, which is coming out next year. So yeah, and that's kind of thing. And I really hope people like the Unicorn 69er stuff. Like, it was fun to do. We didn't really want to bust Matt's balls about stuff like going back and refining too much stuff, because again, he was doing it for free. So hopefully he extends me that same courtesy when I do his artwork. But yeah, it was just, you know what I mean? It's just good to swap and help people, and yeah, why not? I mean, the guy I work with in Unicorn 69, he's a really talented person, like a one-man band. He sent me a whole bunch of R&B stuff. He's a really good singer, like really good songwriter, composer. If he had better equipment, he'd be probably a better producer. But yeah, I'm really glad I met him, and then that we're doing this stuff together. And I really am excited about what we're going to do in the future. But Unicorn 69, I don't know if we're going to get extra members or anything, or if it's going to be a live thing. I'm not really interested in that. But it's just fun to be making music. I mean, I'm a fucking music slut. I'll do anything with anyone. Like, it's just good fun to, life is all about who you meet and what you create with them, I think.
Yep.
And that's just basically the philosophy I live by these days, So.
And a good philosophy it is. So I'll be completely honest. Your latest solo EP or album, whatever you want to call it, because there are no EPs or albums these days. What is an album or EP is called Conniption Sketch, and it's up on the screen at the moment. I have to admit, out of all your solo albums, this is the culmination of all of them, and it's probably the most balanced and strongest of your solo albums, because I think and knowing you well enough, I know you're not going to take this as an insult or anything.
Fuck you, man!
Ah! I'm going! Bye! No, but this really is a culmination of all those skills that you've put together. And, as you said, getting that feedback of people saying, what the fuck are you doing this vocal, annoying kind of stuff, and it's not whatever I'm used to. But this really is a fantastic culmination of it. So congratulations on that. So, again, links to Adam Glynn's solo stuff is in the description. And I've got a photo of the album up here. And it's been playing in the background for the first half of this show, so congratulations on that. And what I want to ask about, why I'm heading to this, you've mentioned that you're using iOS. Is iOS a thing that you've really moved towards to make music these days?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've done stuff with Cubase, and that's the only recording program I've ever really used. But since I got my Mac and my iPad and Apple devices, it is a lot easier to sort of do stuff. What I normally do is, if I'm, depending on how serious I am about the release I'm doing, or how much money is available, sometimes we'll do the stuff at home.
Yep.
And then there's a sort of a hip hop producer I work with, Bacterium. So sometimes I'll give the stuff to him and he'll mix it for me. So he did the Mi Tierra Clonos EP for me, mixed that for me. He did the Mask single as well. And I met him through a guy that I've done artwork for, so the Blowfish saxophone, my friend Mark Fisher, who plays sax and puts out a bunch of solo dancey sort of stuff. Yeah, a lot of the stuff I've just done myself, and then it's for me, it's just more about just getting the levels, and I do everything through headphones. I don't really listen to how stuff sounds through monitors, because that's not really the intention of why I put music out now. I'm real music's kind of an antisocial thing now. I think it's something people listen to on trains and whilst they're going on their commute every day, sort of thing, or it's an escapism thing too. So I kind of hope when I do what I do, it's meant to be like an album, an experience, and you kind of hope people will just use it to mellow out or whatever. And not that you can to some of the stuff I do, but yeah, I don't know. Like, it's just something I wanted to do with my voice and stuff, and just to see if I could. And like I said, like Mike Patton's Adult Fiend for Voice, I've listened to that maybe 5 times. I can't listen to it from start to finish.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's horseshit. But what he did with his voice, if you are a vocalist and you know what went into that, it's quite interesting. And I just thought I wanted to try and do that balance between what him and Björk did, where there's sort of like a balance where there is something rhythmic and you sort of can get into it. It's just another side of my musical cube that I just wanted to express. And yeah, there's so many great vocalists out there that I would love to see them do that sort of thing. Also, it'd be kind of cool if, say, another producer or a DJ or something took some of that stuff and sampled it and built upon that as well. So that's why I put the stuff out there for free. I'd love it if someone did that. It'd be really, really cool. But again, it's just something I want to do. It's like, there are people I know that are really great drawers and they've got sketchbooks this high of amazing art that no one will ever see because they're too shy. And maybe I should be more shy about what I do, and maybe I shouldn't show people what I do. But why not? It's just fun,
It's better out than in.
Yes, the fart philosophy.
It is, yes. The fart philosophy is the way to go. And you mentioned Mike Patton, his first solo EP. It's hard to listen to, apart from the one that just goes, fuck, 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 fuck. That's the only one I always kind of would put on because I think represented the whole thing. But as he went on to do, I think that was a necessary thing to do, because then it went on to things like Tomahawk, and his second solo album was like more heading to that Tomahawk and the Phantom Ass kind of thing. So, it grew the same way as what you described, getting into beats and things to mix that vocal style in. But, we all have to go through those, I think, raw, teething things. That's why I like John Frusciante's first album. I think it's one of the greatest albums ever made because it's so fucking raw. I can just imagine him just taking shots of heroin and just going, and just screaming in pain after he'd got kicked out of Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
And it's so beautiful because it's so painful to listen to. So I'm going to talk about your art now and just pop some of it on the screen. Because all the time I've known you, I never really knew, you had this hidden ability. Tell us how you fell into the world of creating art.
So again, just like with the Aries EP, when I did that, I did 5 tracks. And then I was sort of like, okay, I'm going to put this out. It's something really different that I've not done before, but I was really interested to see how people would react to it. But I was like, okay, well, I need someone to design a cover for me. And I approached a few artists that I liked. And then because it cost me nothing, I didn't really want to spend too much. Obviously, I'm not about not paying people for their work. But what people were getting back to me was just starting at $500. I certainly don't charge that much for artwork. And then people weren't getting back to me thinking, I'm a really impatient person. If I decide I want to do something, like, I'll do it and I'll get it done as quickly as I can. And maybe that's not really to my advantage, but it's just who I am as a person. So anyway, I digress. When the EP came out, I got a really good response back to the cover. And then I was sort of like, okay, well, I've been working on about a year on all different bits of art and stuff I did, but I never had the guts to show anybody. So then one day on Facebook, I just created a new album saying my art, and then just started uploading it, and I got surprisingly really flattering and genuine feedback. So when I was putting out the solo stuff, I was like, oh yeah, cool, man. And then when I started doing the art, I was like, oh, I'm actually getting personal messages. So then I just became like a hobby that's kind of grown into something minute. I had about nearly 1,000 followers on Facebook, and then I think I posted like a really offensive meme and then got deleted and then lost all that following. So and just kudos to Crystal Ignite if you're watching or listening or see this eventually, because she was one of a handful of musicians I approached when I was trying to get the art stuff off the ground, and she got right behind me and supported it.
Yep.
Shared it to a whole bunch of people, and it's a big reason for why I got so much work in this at the start and kind of got the slight following I had. So for me, I know 900,000 followers is fuck all, but it's really good for something I've done by myself. I was really quite proud of that, because the thing is, regardless of how many bands you're in, you can't expect, or I don't expect, the people that liked what you did previously to come and check out and follow you what you do next. You've got to start again from scratch and earn people's respect again and all that. So that's totally fine. The people going from Bacterium to Frankenbok and from Frankenbok to 5-star. I mean, look, don't get me wrong, it helps, but it wasn't certainly like all those people that liked Frankenbok followed me to 5-star and vice versa and stuff. So a lot of people that liked Frankenbok heard 5-star. And then people like Bacterium and Frankenbok didn't like it either. And I got this honest feedback from a handful of people and stuff, and I appreciate that. But at the same time, you don't want to keep doing the same thing. It's sort of like, what's the point of just having a version 2.0 of another band?
Yeah.
You might as well try something different. I mean, whether it's the lyrical approach, the vocal approach, even on the new
unicorn stuff, I know the growl kind of for me, but I find something a little more different. I don't know if people hear it. I certainly hear it. But yeah, I guess it just depends on how much people really care about your stuff and follow it through. So whatever.
Well, as you've been talking there, I've been scrolling through a ton of your artwork, so people have got a really good idea of what it is. And as you've mentioned, you do art for, that's become a really big thing, to do art for album covers. So if anybody watching this is interested, the Facebook link for Adam Glynn's art is in the description. So, excuse me, click on that, get in contact with Adam, and he'll do something really damn cool. As you can see, it's sick artwork. So congratulations on that new venture. I was very proud watching from a distance and going, holy shit, man. Once again, you've reinvented yourself, and that's what it's all about, really.
Oh, thank you, Jade. I appreciate that. Thank you.
My pleasure. I've followed your whole career since, we lived in that house together and did some crazy things together, and you told me that story about the love tester machine, and that's how we gave you the name Cold Fish in the band. And red hair, just like Malcolm. And, that's a private joke that nobody's going to get. But if you get a hold of the Filth demo, which you can find somewhere online, look up Filth Clitoral Vision, you'll understand red hair, just like Malcolm. But it's been a real pleasure just watching your whole career go from afar, and really proud to see all the things that you continue to do. So I'm glad that you still are making music. I know we've had some conversations along the way. We've said, I'm not doing it anymore. I'm closing down my Facebook, no more. And then thankfully you come back each time.
Yeah, well, I was done with music. I just wanted to do the art stuff. I enjoy it more. It's more satisfying. You don't have to deal with other people. You can do it as much or as little as you want. But yeah, I've made a really great friend in Phil with the unicorn stuff. And it's really funny, the story, because when I was doing Frankenbok and the Don't Call Me Baby cover, we used to invite a member up out of the crowd to do the female vocals, and we did a gig, I think it was in Brunswick or something, or Northcote or something, and this girl Zoe Giorgio got up and sang with me, and then we became friends, and then actually she was a lovely Greek girl. She's about to have a baby, actually. It's just crazy. Like, the people you meet through doing music, it's you can regret things, but at the same time, life would be so different if I'd never done it. Anyway,
Dick Harness to her out there, if she's watching, Dick Harness.
The Malacca. Anyway,
oh my God.
Putana. I'm joking. Yeah, so I went and spent Christmas with them, and I met her brother and stuff, and he was a nice guy, but he was always saying, you should come over and we'll jam and do some stuff, and this is finally us sort of getting together and finally doing something. I really love the way he works. He works really, really hard. Unicorn 69, or whether you like it or hate it, I pretty much give all the credit to him, because he's taken what I've done and he's really vamped it and molded it into what it is. So yeah, and it's just great that he really likes what I do, and when we did the song Buoyant Skin Graft, he kind of directed me vocally what to do. I just went over there for a bunch of lyrics and stuff, and yeah, he's really cool. Like, just a really lovely guy, really passionate about music, works hard and stuff, and he's put out like an EP himself. He goes under the title Bimbo, and he used to sing in a Pantera cover band, and he's done a whole bunch of stuff. And I think his sister Zoe's a really good singer as well, and they lived in Greece for a while, and she came second in like the equivalent of American Idol, the Greek version of that. And he's a very colourful character, quite eccentric. He's definitely lived a life, and yeah, like, it's just, I'm really excited about working with him. And I'm also doing another project with another mate, Adam Regan. We're calling it Cassette Attic. Mm-hmm. And it's more electronic ambient sort of stuff. So if you don't know who Adam is, he's the guy I did the BWE stuff with and Tarlafang stuff with a long time ago. So yeah, he works a bit differently and a bit slower, but he's a bit more of a perfectionist and stuff. And so yeah, and that was going to be the main thing I was going to do, but then Phil sort of come out and it's like, you know what, I'm going to do this. And then I had the solo stuff I was working on anyway, because I'm always doing something. I love to sit down and just zone out and watch movies and stuff, but sometimes it's like, I'd rather just be doing something. So whether it is art or music, even if it's something I'm not going to show people, and then spontaneity and impulse kicks in. It's like, fuck it, I'll just put it out, see what people think.
So
why not?
just because we're on iOS, and this is an iOS kind of show, do you have a few apps that are always your go-to on iOS to create stuff?
Well, for recording, I always use GarageBand, and I know people might turn their nose up at that, but
No way.
it's very, very good and easy to use for me. Very, very accessible. That's one thing I love about Apple. They have simplified everything. The first time I got my Mac, it's just been, I don't want to sound like I'm pushing but I am an advocate for Apple. Like I've just had such a great experience with their products.
Yeah.
From when I got my first iPhone to my iMac. I mean, I don't know what it's like for you, but every PC I've got, it's been nothing but trouble. But pretty much within 10 minutes of taking my Mac out of my box, plugging it in, I was surfing the internet. It was all just so easy.
Just works.
Yeah. As far as the art stuff is concerned, I use Enlight PhotoFox. So they have two great apps. It's like a really user-friendly Photoshop, I guess, and you get some really great results with that. I don't know, I use a bunch of things. I throw a bit of Prisma in there. There's a great one called Inkwork if you just want to get that sketchy look. Inception, which is Nception. That's another great one if you want to get that butterfly arty effect stuff. Pixomatic's another good one. What else? Font Mania is really good for sort of album covers. So if you've already got an image and want to just put font over it. For my t-shirts, I use Snap-T. So that's basically just another avenue where if you've got a design, you can basically just get your design put straight onto it. So as long as the quality of the image is good, you usually get good t-shirts out of it. So I've set up a few links just on my various Bandcamp pages. So if people want Bacterium t-shirts and Unicorn 69 t-shirts, as designs already done. I make my own t-shirts now. So I did this cool one with I always just wanted an Imperial Probe Droid t-shirt. So I just found the image, and I took about 3 or 4 bits of it and put it together, and then put a few effects on it and just put it on a white background, and then just made a t-shirt for myself. Because I think sometimes it's just in life there are things you want, and it's kind of like, well, I can't find that anyway, so you just got to create it for yourself. I think so.
Yeah. Well, you won't get any complaints out of me for GarageBand, definitely, because a lot of people who watch this show, I do heaps of shows using GarageBand. And look, this week I did shows on apps by the same company as Enlight. So I did Video Leap, and you probably used Pixaloop before. I don't know if you've used that. They're made by the same company, 2 sick apps. I don't know if you've ever used Over.
No, I remember you talking to me about it.
It's really cool.
There's a bunch of stuff out there I want to get my hands on. I just I just haven't had the time to really explore it yet.
So thank you for sharing those apps. I have been showing them in the chat, so people can go and have a look at those on those recommendations. But we are nearing the end of the show, so I'm going to ask the final question, which I love asking because it always makes people say, fuck. When's the best time, do you think, for somebody to start creating?
Well, basically whenever inspiration hits. So, have a pen and paper next to your bed. If you're driving, just use the recording apps you've got on your phone. I remember back in the day before smartphones and stuff, like the Frankenbok song, I'm okay with it. I don't know if people know that song. I had the idea whilst driving, and I rang home and sang it to my answering machine, and I did like that too. And I know I remember hearing Mike Patton do something like that too, which is not, I didn't get the idea from him at all, but it's just something I thought of doing. I just think inspiration comes when it does, and just do it when it feels naturally. Sometimes you can sort of set yourself up a little roster or a routine in your week. And sometimes, I will sit down with my iPad or at my computer to do music. And even if nothing comes out, it's just the trying, just to do it. It passes the time for me. So especially now in lockdown, so many people are freaking out because their life has been altered. But I've always believed time is a gift. So you can use this time to reflect, so whether that's spiritually or you want to work on your fitness or your creativity. Yeah, you can do so much time and so much stuff with this time. So that's what I've sort of been trying to do. So working on music and art and just reflection as well. I think what this the virus has taught me, it hasn't brought out the best in a lot of people. I think it's also made people realize that they're not really happy in their lives. So I have this saying too, like your home is your launch pad into life. So regardless of what you're doing, before you can do anything, you've got to create a great space for yourself, a bubble from the outside world that you can come home to. So whether you relax, watch TV, sleep, do whatever, you need that. You can't build on anything till you're happy within yourself. So internally, externally, environmentally, mentally, all that sort of stuff. That's where you got to begin. And that's what I had to do 2 years ago. So when I first moved into here, I got myself set up into a space that I'm really happy. And it kind of deflected from what I was doing for a couple of months. But once I was set up again, it's like, cool, I feel safe. I feel inspired. I've done the bare minimum of what I need to do to be happy. And because no one can do that for you, you've got to do that for yourself. And happiness is a different thing for everybody. My interpretation of happiness is probably very different to what yours is, but there are fundamental correlations, I think, between it all. We all need to feel safe. We all need to have those weights lifted off our shoulders and our minds before we can do anything. But some people, I don't know, at the same time, without contradicting myself, some people react to stress and misery, and they use that fuels their productivity. But I'd rather do something coming from light and love and inspiration. I've made enough angry, hateful music, and I want to do something more beautiful. I want to give back to something and inspire people, if not flattering myself to think that I could, but I hope people, even my friends, even if it's just that small ripple in the pond, that see what I do, and then they think, well, fuck, if this dickhead can do it, I can do it, and I can do it better. And it's just about inspiring people and stuff, and being good to people. And yeah, it's not about narcissism or ego for me. It's just I just genuinely enjoy creating. Some people get the same rush by kicking a footy or
footy
or kicking some cunt's head in. I don't know, whatever. There's a lot of dickheads out there, but I enjoy creating, and I'm not saying I'm good at it because I don't think I am, but I enjoy doing it, and it brings me peace, it brings me fulfillment. And if people like yourself or a handful of people enjoy it, it's great. If you reach that one person, then it's all worthwhile.
It's true, man. It sounds cliche. Do the things that make you happy. The music, your creativity will reach other people and make them happy. And it won't reach everybody because it's just an impossible feat.
No, I just think there are a lot of perfectionists out there, and I just think nothing is perfect. And I think it's when you create something, whether it's art, music, TED Talk, whatever, I just think just draw from the bare essence of it, and you can keep polishing stuff, but I think it just moves away from what the original essence and the intention of the idea is. So I work on the philosophy that I'll do something, and I'm quite impulsive. It's the Aries nature, I guess, and I just try and get stuff out. Maybe I could refine stuff a little bit more, but yeah, I don't know. I just think just get it out, and then the next thing you do, let's make sure that's better than what you did. And everything's a learning curve and whatnot. So, you hopefully you get better with everything you do. I mean, if I listen to the last thing I did compared to the very, very, very first thing I did, and I'd like to think within myself I've improved and I've grown. But yeah, I don't know. It's funny. Like the one thing with my solo stuff. Sorry, I apologize if I'm ranting on a bit, but
no.
Actually, I went back to lyrics I'd written when I was 14 and 15. So the Vogue, She Is Isis, for example, they're lyrics I wrote when I was 15 years old. I had this big book of poetry and stuff, and I thought, because I felt like I was starting again. So I felt like a 13, 14-year-old musician that doesn't know how to play and can't write songs. Because vocally, whatever you think of my vocals is whatever, but I've been pretty fortunate in the circumstances that I've always played with really great musicians, I think, anyway. Like they're all amazing and very creative people, and I certainly wouldn't have got this confidence to do this stuff if it wasn't for playing with those people. So I'm very grateful to them. I hope they're not ashamed of what I'm doing now. And I thank all of them from the bottom of my heart. So everyone from Shane Russell, who's doing really amazing things now in 12 Foot Ninja, to Cam McDonald, who's doing Hastashian, like they're like a Secret Chiefs 3, and Mark Whitworth, the drummer from Firestar, he's working with a bunch of people now. They're bringing out this massive sludge doom project. It's going to be awesome. I don't think they've come up with a name yet, but I've heard some of the demos, and it's really, really cool. 2 vocalists. It's going to be sick. So I'm just so happy for all my friends that continue to create and make music and do stuff. It's just really inspiring. And even if we're just doing it for each other, that's still cool to me. Like I'd rather get a high five from 3 of my best friends and have thousands of people that I don't really give a fuck about. Like, don't get me wrong, I don't want to kill my audience.
I'm with
but
you.
You know what I mean? It's I don't know, it's just yeah, I don't know. Creating is a very personal thing, and I sort of do it more of the intent just to show my friends. And if it gets beyond that, again, then that's awesome. But I never, for once in my life, ever imagined that anything I did would have got as far as it did. So everything's a blessing and everything's a surprise to me. And I'm very grateful for all the people that have supported what I've done over the years. And yeah, thank you.
Beautifully spoken. Thank you very much for coming on the show and opening up about yourself and your story and your music, your creativity. It's very kind of you to come on today. I'm stoked to have you on the show. So thank you very much for that, my friend.
Jade, thank you so much for having me. And I'm so glad to have met you. And you were such a big influence on me in my early days. And I really appreciate all the support you've given me, man. Thank you so much.
Same. It comes back in spades. You've influenced me back many times over. So, oh, isn't it all lovely? Fuck off, you dog. all that shit. So thank you also, everybody, for sticking around. If you're watching on the replay, thank you also. Hey, if you like the content that you see here on How to App on iOS, tomorrow we're back doing the regular show of looking at apps for the last 2 days of the week, because a little bit different this week, putting the interview in midweek. But if you do like the content and you haven't subscribed,
What the hell are you doing? You should have subscribed by now.
so please hit the subscribe, share, and all that stuff. So please do that. And what I will do now is say goodbye to Adam. Stay on the line with me here, and we will just go out with one of your tracks. You'll see some things pop up on the screen, a subscribe button, and a playlist of other videos within the How to App series. And what are we at, 54 or something like that? So there's plenty of content. So thank you very much. I hope you'll have a wonderful day, night, evening, wherever you are, and you do lots of creative things. So adios, my friends.